Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. Feeling a lot better than last week. I think the allergies have finally cleared up. No longer feeling sniffly or sneezy as much as I did last week. Last week was kind of a bummer. It was pretty annoying. It was something that I wasn't able to shake within the first 24 hours. It was a couple days. It was pretty annoying. But, we prevail, as strong people do, day in and day out, when your life is met with adversity, are you just gonna quit on what you're doing? No, you're gonna keep on going. That's what that's what it's all about. Do you have the strength to persevere or prevail through the struggle? And I did. No drugs needed whatsoever. Didn't take a single Claritin. Didn't take a single Benadryl. Just kind of toughed it out and said, no, this ain't happening. And it's not like I didn't go outside throughout that week. I was outside, not like a whole lot, but, a little bit here and there. And I was like, you know what? I think it's clearing up. I think that's the good thing about allergies is that when your body adjusts to, whether it be pollen or dust or whatever, it takes your body a little bit of time to adjust. But then once it does adjust, it's like, okay, big deal, BFD. I ain't got no problem. I could do this all day. It's just, when those first blossoms bloom or when that first lawn gets cut or you run into like some pollen that you can't see, then it's like, oh, a shock to your system. But after a while, it's all good. You feel fine and everything is cool, back to normal. There's nothing better, I think, than feeling good, right? Feeling healthy. And I don't mean by metabolically, like you got your blood work done and all that and everything's like crystal clear. But I'm talking about like not being sick or not feeling weak or not being tired or not being like having fatigue or dehydration. Something you can kind of fix up pretty quickly. Like a couple days ago, I was feeling incredible. Like I felt like I just felt so fresh. That feeling when you feel fresh after a shower, right? But it wasn't even really after a shower. It was just like after like a couple of activities, and I just felt really good. I don't know what it was, but I had one of those days, and I'm like, dude, I gotta replicate that like every single day. Wasn't sleepy, didn't need a nap, was fully rested, hydrated, fed. I had a bunch of chow in my belly. Well, not a bunch, but like, the perfect amount. And you just feel good. Yeah. I feel like more people gotta chase that feeling. Because that's a feeling that can't be replicated all that often. By natural causes, it cannot. I feel like it can't be replicated. It's something that's so hard to find sometimes. Feeling good, because every day brings new challenges, new activities, new obstacles that could potentially make you feel a little off. Having to do something that might make you a little anxious, something that might make you tired, something that might trigger a sickness, pathogen, allergy, whatever, something like that you can't really control. You can't really, it's something that's got to be done. You're like, well, if I do this, I'm going to feel not great. Like if I go under this crawl space in my house because I need to go, fix something, I'm probably going to, get a lot of dust in my nose, and I'm going to be sneezing for the rest of the day. Or if I have to go out and cut this lawn right now, I know that I might come out of it not feeling that great. My allergies might act up or some shit like that. If I have to go and help somebody move, from place to place, I'm going to feel probably sore tomorrow, and I'm going to feel exhausted, and I don't know if I want to feel that. You got to pick and choose too. Picking and choosing your day-to-day battles and your day-to-day tasks is actually kind of hard, somewhat difficult, because if you're like me and you like to plan ahead for not just like the week or the month, or but the day. If you're like me, you take into consideration of how you're going to feel later that day. Whether you're like, okay, well, I gotta go do this, I'm gonna feel pretty tired after that, I gotta make time for maybe a nap, or gotta make sure I eat, gotta make sure I take care of this later, gotta make sure I fill out this and do that, make sure I'm not late for this, or do any of this stuff. I guess that's why they make planners, right? Planners back in the day, especially like elementary school, when they but they gave you a planner to be organized throughout the day, the week, the month, the entire school year, right? They try to drill it into your brain to be organized, write down the classes you have, the homework you got for that class, what you got after class, and they even gave little sections for like the weekend. That way you can write down like what you might have to do, what some goals you want to set, and things you got to remember to do. And I always thought that, man, this is stupid. I'll just remember it. I can remember stuff. I don't need to have something that's, written so I don't forget. I'm not going to forget this. Well, now, being an older person, being someone who's, kind of has to, in a position where it's better to map out your entire day, to know what you have to get done and try to block everything. That way it doesn't seem so hectic. That way it doesn't seem so frantic and chaotic. Because sometimes if you got stuff that you got to get done, multiple things a day, it can feel like an uphill battle. Like, you got to wake up, go to work, do this, do that, pick this up, make this, go take so-and-so somewhere, do something online, maybe hang out with some friends, do this or whatever. If you want to watch a movie, make time for a TV show, do some laundry. You got to really be ahead of the game in terms of what you do during the day. And I think that makes life, it kind of puts into perspective of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and maybe the most efficient way to get it all done. Like, for instance, back then I would kind of like not care about that. That's why when it came to homework time, I had to like pretty much rush everything and get it all done, to stay up late and do, kind of, not be that great at time management. Was not my strong suit back then. When you have the deadly combination of laziness and bad time management, oh man, you'd be lucky to survive school. You'd be lucky to even get out of like the school year with passing grades. If you didn't have somebody like, back then, if your parents were like micro parenting you and like parenting over the shoulder and saying like, make sure to do this, make sure to do that, you probably weren't going to get shit done. Luckily, my mom back then made me like do my homework and shit, like up to a certain point. And then I was kind of on my own at then, because the older you get, you kind of get a little bit more organized. Like when I was a really young kid, like 5th grade, oh man, I did nothing. Nothing worked for me. I wasn't organized. I put all the papers and homework and assignments in my backpack, but not even like in the binder or a folder, just like in there loosely in my backpack. So whenever I would go into, home to do it, I would just like, you bring it out and hopefully like I can get it done. or try my best. I think about it now. When I was, in school, I was very much in like a school mindset of like, I just need to, get this done. That way I could play video games, whatever, or go eat with my friends or whatever, or make sure I turn something in for class tomorrow. If I have my mindset now, like this all depends. Well, my future depends on it. I might have approached it way, way, way different. But back then, I just saw it as a stupid chore that I had to get done, and I did not take it seriously. Did not, and I was just like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll do it when I do it, and never really took it all that seriously. Not to say that I was like a bad student, but I definitely felt that I could have done a lot better, and it wouldn't have been that hard to do. I was always in that mindset of like, I'm just not smart enough to do this type of work. I'm not as smart as this other kid in school. Now that kid just was organized more. He had a better work ethic than I did, and I just didn't really apply. I didn't try. I bet you if I tried, I would have done so much better. I always felt that I did give it a shot. I guess I just kind of settled for like just getting by. And that's kind of how it went down. That's unfortunate. You think about stuff like that, what you could have done better. I feel like if I could have done school all over again with like a mindset of myself right now, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten all A's. That would have been a cakewalk. A cakewalk. I think so. I think if you were to put me in like a geometry class right now, I would be able to ace that test, or class 100%. Because I would just try to figure it out the best I can. With the mindset that I have today, I feel like I could do it. I feel like it would be so easy, and I would have no issue at all when it comes to solving geometry questions. If school is the same way as it is today, where you get a lesson in a textbook, and the textbook gives you some examples, and then the examples turn into the problems that you have to do for an assignment that you complete on paper with answers in the back of the book, so you know that you're on the right track and you're on the right path, then I totally think that I could pass like a Geometry 1 class right here, right now. 100%. With my mindset that I have today, I am a much stronger-minded person today than I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. 100%. I think I could pass that with ease. I feel like it would take me like two seconds to get like a full grasp of whatever I was trying to learn like that day. Like say like I was given like you got to do these problems that use like the Pythagorean theorem. I'd be like, no problem. I could do it in a cinch. Easily do it. I've been out of school for about 5 years. I've been out of school. College completed 5 years ago. Been out of school. Been in adult-minded stuff. And, adult-minded stuff, when you got, work and shit, you got stuff to figure out. You're in like a constant problem-solving mode. Depending on like what your job is and how your life is at home, you're kind of in a problem-solving mindset once you get out of school. Because as much as school, throws you problems like homework and assignments and shit like that, the real world problems of, paying for shit and, setting up appointments and getting things fixed around the house, maybe your car, stuff like that. Buying stuff that you probably didn't think that you needed to buy, but have to buy because you need it in order to live. That is, that ramps up to a more serious tone once you complete school and you're not living as comfortable as you did when you were in school. Because, school in America, I think, is completely different from school, like I would say, in other countries like China, where in China, you hear, reports and how they're like the top of their classes and like they're like one of the smartest nations when it comes to their youth and drilling them with school. Like school to them is their life, Here, it's important, but nowhere near as important as it is in other countries. Like, for instance, China, Japan, other countries where they take education extremely, extremely seriously. Like, you could do an assignment here in America and, the teacher grades it and she gives it like a 82% out of 100. You got a majority of the answers correct. And then, you keep that same kind of trajectory on your assignments. You get like 80%, maybe a 70 here or there, couple 90%. You kind of fluctuate in your performance during your homework and all that. You get a couple of projects where you're in groups and maybe let's say you get B's on all those, right? B's, maybe an A once in a while, couple C's, no real bad grades, but you do pretty okay. For the most part, at least when I was in school, it was okay for you to come home with that, those grades. At least in my household, it wasn't really like, of course, my parents were like, get straight A's or do well, but I wasn't like failing. So it's like DEFCON 1 was like nowhere in question. Like I wasn't even in any immediate danger of getting like grounded or getting disciplined or going to the principal's office. I was in the safe zone of not being, hounded on by parents or school, but also, not really like saying like, hey, good job. I was in like the middle range, in the middle of the pack. And of course, the people who failed all their classes and didn't do well at all, they definitely probably get talked to from their parents, maybe administration, maybe sent to the principal's office, maybe expelled, yada, yada, yada. That's when it gets real, right? That's when it becomes more of a, hey, you know what? This is you're probably going to get held back if you don't shape up. Let's say you don't shape up, you get held back. Then that's kind of weird, right? Socially, because I believe that school is first and foremost a educational, education first experience as you're a kid. Education comes first in that environment. But let's not forget that school is very, very, very social in so many ways. I mean, like I always kind of thought that it was almost like a competition also, because not only do you want to perform well, some people want to perform better at certain things than other students. I want to get a better grade than you, or I want to do better on this project. I want to do mine better than yours. That also kind of comes into a factor because we're human beings, we're people. We naturally want to compete with one another. We want to do better, but we also want to be social. We want to make it fun too, because learning in a fun environment is, I would say always better. Does it always give you the best results? Probably not. Not too sure on that. Don't have the numbers on me. But, you can still make everybody gets solid grades, maybe not all A's, but, pretty well. And I think that, that's what kind of separates us from between, the United States education and the rest of the world's education. Normally, maybe I hear China, Japan, very strict. And when we get, the settle for mentality, like, oh, I gotta be, I'm cool. Well, that good enough mentality is not really what you need when you face real world problems, like finding employment. That's not really the best mentality to have. Because when you, like, let's say you, like, go to school, you get pretty decent grades, you get a degree because, you met the requirements, right? You need, like, that 3.0 GPA. Well, does a 3.0, now a 3.0 GPA doesn't really, the GPA thing, depending on the field that you go into, if you go into something like, finance or like, a field that doesn't really require a lot of like general knowledge. Like if you want to become a mathematician or a math professor, you probably need like a 4.0 GPA at least. You gotta know what you're gonna be teaching. It's gotta be like the back of your hand, right? You gotta know that stuff like without any hesitation. You need to know everything. You have to. If you're gonna be teaching a subject and you're going to be going to school for that subject, you're going to have to know it 100%. I've never come across in my entire schooling, career where I've come across a teacher that doesn't really know the subject or like struggles on teaching the subject. Never. Maybe one, but she was kind of insane. But like besides that, like I had no idea. Like there was no teacher was like, oh, how do you do this? Like that never ever happened. But that was years ago though. I don't know how it is now. I'm pretty sure it's got to be the same, hopefully better. But I don't really know. But if you were to come across a teacher that kind of knew what they were talking about, I think that there would be a lot of questions. Now, of course, like, as a teacher, you would brush yourself up on the subject, right? If you're a math professor, you're not just going to stop doing math. You're probably doing math every single day of your life, planning lessons, refreshing yourself on material, making sure your brain is sharp. And not only do you know how the subject works, but you know how to teach it. Right? People can know stuff. I know how to play video games. I know how to throw a football. I know how to drive a car. But do I know how to teach that to somebody else that isn't like me? That doesn't learn the way that I do? That's completely different. Right? You could know like the most advanced physics, right? But if you don't know how to communicate and teach it to someone else who is not you, then you're probably going to fail as a teacher. It's probably just not for you. You probably just have to go into like some kind of field, like some kind of career where you work with a company that uses that subject to build stuff or do stuff with that, in that field. Because if you can't teach it, then you have to do it, right? I remember there was like some movie or some show, I can't remember, that they were roasting somebody because they became a teacher. And I think the line went like something like, if you can't do, then you teach. Like kind of like making it so like teachers are kind of like failures. That's not true for the most part. You can definitely become a teacher and, have fulfillment in that. I believe that's possible. Now, the payments, what I've heard, becoming a teacher, like you're not going to be rolling in cash. So I've heard. But I guess like you have to like love it. You can't just kind of half-ass it. You have to really enjoy what you do in order to get fulfillment in what you do. It's kind of like sports, kind of like, you see it in like, even today, like I love sports. I love watching sports. And I watched sports throughout like 29 years of my life. And I've seen different athletes and different sports, different eras. I know I haven't been around that long, but I've been able to see change in the athlete and the sport, and how the change of the athlete has what it's done to the sport. And I think that one of the prime examples you see this is in like professional sports like football and basketball. Though I think those are the main two that I watch a lot of, and I can kind of see how it's kind of changing. You know, from what I was taught, for what I've known, and for what I've like observed, how these people, right? These people like me and you, just way more athletic, get paid get scholarships to go to these gigantic universities, which have all this money because of their college teams, let's be fair, right? Notre Dame is not going to be as bombastically rich in prestige if their football team is not on TV every Sunday during college football season. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen with millions of people attending their, games throughout the year, and even more watching it on TV. Without the TV rights and the sales of the tickets, sales of merchandise because of that football team, Notre Dame's just not going to be as prestigious as it is. It's just not going to be. And for some people who are so giftedly athletically, right, to go to college, hopefully gain, an education as well. A good education as you play football. But you know that you're super talented. And you probably know even before you sign, you enroll into this school, knowing that football is going to be your future, that you're good enough to get to the NFL and to make potentially millions and millions of dollars, that your parents know, your coaches know that you have it, right? You're so gifted. You're an athletic beast, a monster, right? And then once you get paid that money, I feel like in modern day sports, some of that, initial love for the sport that you had, that you played and you were so good at, right? It just came to you so easy. You're faster than everybody. You understood the game better than anybody. You were just blown by other kids back in the day. No problem with any of that. You get paid this money, right? You get endorsement deals from Nike. You get like a shake sponsored. They sponsor you. Gatorade sponsors you. You get all this cash. You get all this money. And what's your job? You show up and you play football. You go to practice. You watch some film. You play Sunday, one game a week, and you have this much money. I can definitely see like how the love for that sport can kind of go away with all that money. Because now you're put into a position where I literally have everything. I could do vacation. I could drive all these cars. I could go into this. I can buy this house and just live how I want to live. And then football kind of becomes a little more of a second thought because of how much you have. Because at first, you don't have much, but the game you play is able to provide you happiness. And we don't get that with a lot of players today, where you can see that they love it for real, because not only are they getting paid, but they're so good at what they do. It like their quality like just never falls. Like Kobe Bryant, like was paid handsomely, but the quality of his play never really dipped until he got old and battered. And even then, he gave it everything that he got. He tried, and try because he loved to compete. He loved basketball. He loved being out there with his team. It was like the thing that he was born to do, and he loved it so much. And then you get people like, for example, like, I don't know if this is completely true, but I remember when Ezekiel Elliott first got into the league. The dude was a monster at running back from Ohio State. He was a monster. People were like, inevitably, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid a shit ton of money. And he did. He got a very, very, very good deal. Playing for the Dallas Cowboys, great deal. High-ranked player out of college, big name, famous, kind of pretty much a famous guy, very, very, very famous athlete. What happens when he got paid? The quality of his play dropped tremendously. The dude was getting sidelined by Tony Pollard. I mean, look, I'm not going to make assumptions that he doesn't love the game, but maybe the money, the comfortness, almost kind of like drowned out his love and wanting to be better, because he was already good. He was really good. But ever since I think he got paid, he was never really as dominant as he was back then. Now, granted, his O-line was probably better before he got paid. But even still then, like, for you to get sidelined by Tony Pollard. Now, Tony Pollard is, very good as well, but, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott was like Heisman contender. He was like high-ranked pick. Like, I mean, he was like one of the better running backs come out of college in the recent years. Like, just, by college play and by, notability, notoriety, and just pure talent. The guy was a monster. It's just kind of weird how, like, some of these players who, you see are extremely rare and great talents that you think that, oh, these guys love the game. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just see it as a way for them to better their future. Maybe they just care about their image more than how they play the game. You can kind of see that now with the social media era, where players really, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure they still like the way that they play and they want to play well. But, I mean, the name, image, likeness, right? NIL, that's what's being put into college. They're straight up being paid on how popular that person is by name, image, and likeness. And of course, the play on the field influences that, right? It makes it better. But like, how much of that is because you love what you do? I don't know. I feel like professional sports and all that stuff has kind of like, in my opinion, we pay these guys way too much to be playing a game. Like, we pay these guys so much money to play football, basketball, baseball, whatever. Too much, in my opinion. For like just a superstar athlete, just to be strong and to run on the field, like, wow, you think about it, right? You see these contracts, you're like, Mike Trout got paid how much money for 10 years to hit a ball? Huh? I don't know. Okay, whatever, sure. That's fine. But then it's like, how much do you love playing the game if you're willing to sign a deal like what Mike Trout did with a team that has like no real shot at winning a championship? That's another reason. It's like, how are these guys supposed to love competing if they're not even going to compete? They won't even get a shot at competing for the championship because they know their team is not capable to compete at a higher level. So where did the love go? The love for the sport, the love for competing. That's something that, you don't really think about, but I think is more popular in today's age, probably more than in the past. I would say, like, the whole thing with social media kind of like brought it all into perspective of, who's, you can kind of see of where the quality of their play, kind of where they dipped off. Oh, he got paid. Yeah. Obviously that was going to happen, right? kind of weird, just kind of weird to think about. Some people you can tell they still want to win. Others, you can kind of see them coasting. Ezekiel Elliott, to me, just seems like, oh, I got paid. Yeah, cool. I'm just going to ride this out because I'm rich. It's like, damn, man. Shit. And you had so much talent. Probably going to waste now. Like I said, he was a great running back when he came out of college. From Ohio State, and his first couple years in Dallas were freaking crazy. Crazy. After that, just kind of nosedive. I was like, whoa. Not to be on the negative notes on sports talk, but I do want to talk about the NBA playoffs that are underway at this moment. I do want to give my thoughts on some of these playoff series that are happening at the moment. Right now we have all the playoff series going on. Some ones that are jumping out to me at the moment are Clippers, Suns. Clippers and the Suns are tied 1 apiece. And they were just in Phoenix going to LA. I forgot how good Kawhi Leonard was. Is it because he doesn't play that much because he's hurt a lot? But I don't know. But in these playoffs right now against the Suns, he's been playing great. He's been playing like Kawhi Leonard from back in the Toronto Raptors days. Like, he is putting it on these guys. And this is a team with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant. And listen, I know the series is tied, but still, you have to put into perspective of, Kawhi Leonard is doing this all without Paul George. And kind of putting this team on his back. I know they lost the game 2, but still, you can't really, deny of how good this guy is playing. And it's so good to see because Kawhi Leonard, him being such a quiet dude, not making a whole lot of noise about anything, kind of keeping to himself. The dude barely argues with the refs on the court about bad calls or whatever, right? He never really does that stuff. Just to see him quietly murder teams is crazy. And it's seeing that dominance is so, as much as I'm not really a Kawhi Leonard fan, it's nice to see how a player is still capable of doing incredible things like that. When they're not really, at a time he was probably considered maybe 5 or 4 years ago, considered one of the top 1 or 2 players. These most recent years, he kind of has fallen off, but this playoff push right here, these playoff games, he's really stepped up and been here, y'all remember me? I'm Kawhi Leonard. I'm just going to murder you. You can murder this team. Whoever I'm playing, you're done. You're donezo. And, you kind of think, you kind of just sit back and you have to love it because it's so fun to watch. It's so fun to see. That one definitely sticks out to me because that series between the Suns and the Clippers, because Kevin Durant got traded to the Suns mid-season. And now he showed up injured. Didn't really, start playing not too long ago. Started playing for the Suns after being injured. After being traded from the Nets, which that team, with all those stars, back when they first made that team a thing. Remember that? Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, coached by Steve Nash. They had at one point James Harden. They had, I'm trying to remember who else they had. Ben Simmons at one point. And I don't think that they ever suited up with all 4 of those guys on that squad. I think they even had Harden, Irving, and Durant on the floor at like maybe 7 times total when that entire team was a team. But now that he's on the Suns, like I said, with Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, this team, the Suns, I feel like that they are pretty much on the verge of like being potentially blown up because of 2 years ago when they were in the finals and they choked away a 2-0 lead against the Bucks. They've never been the same. Not even close. And the team is pretty much the same. I mean, they got Ayton still, Chris Paul, Booker, Durant's there, right? Monty Williams is still their coach. But they haven't really even sniffed, even gotten close of how dominant they were in that whole season in that playoff run. Not even close. So underachieving, and I don't know why. It might have been because I think they gave DeAndre Ayton some like a good contract to stay there. And I remember at one point he was like one of like maybe in contention for like one of the best like new big men in the NBA. And I was able to see it too, like, dude, this guy is so good. And then the Bucks smacked him across the face, won them, in the finals, and just kind of threw them back to reality. Like, oh shit, maybe we're not good. Maybe we were just like, surprising everybody. No one really knew how to beat us. And we got too hot, and then we got close. We kind of let off the steam, let off the gas, and then boom, we let that championship slip through our fingers. That could definitely be a possibility. But like seeing that happen, and now especially with the addition of Kevin Durant, who is, for the most part, for most NBA fans and basketball watchers, is probably the number 2 rated player in the NBA. Some people I think would still say that LeBron James is the best player still, and usually most players would say that Kevin Durant is number 2 behind him. But if you add Kevin Durant to a team that is in contention, I think that it's expected that, he is able to get them to play where they're like, we need to win a championship now. He's built up that repertoire where, I might be the second best player in the NBA, but we're good enough with me. We should be good enough with me to get to the finals at least, right? Especially with the team they got now. Even with Chris Paul, even though he's old as shit, Devin Booker is still young, but hasn't really, I think, in my opinion, taken that next step. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's holding him back. Maybe, the fact that he didn't step up in those finals and still, in my opinion, has not stepped up and become like one of the elite players in the NBA, despite having a NBA 2K cover, not really gotten there yet. When I mean there yet, I mean like the promised land. When you're like undeniably a great player. Like, to me, Kawhi Leonard is like an undeniably great player in this NBA. Like, you're not, with his playoff performances, his championship, when it matters, that dude is on. And it is hard to beat him, and it is hard for you to, prepare for him. Devin Booker at this moment is like not that, really. Not there yet, and maybe that's what's holding him back, is because he is I don't even know if you would say that he's the leader of that team. Maybe Chris Paul because of seniority. I mean, I think that Durant's presence there also kind of begs the question, well, who is the leader? Is it Chris Paul or is it Kevin Durant? I would say that it'd probably be more Chris Paul's team than Kevin Durant's team, because Kevin Durant just got there. Chris Paul's been there for a couple years. But like, I think that the Suns need to get really far, if not to the finals, in order for this to, like, work out. Or if they don't get there, even with Kevin Durant, then they got some big questions to answer, because it's like, dude, Monty Williams, we gave you Kevin Durant. How are we not in the finals, That question's got to be, that's probably something that's discussed, like, all the time. Like, hey, why are we not fucking winning? So that's one I like to keep an eye out on, because that's one of the more interesting series out there. The Celtics against the Hawks is nothing to me. The Celtics are a better team. They should win handsomely. The Sixers, the Nets, to me, the Sixers are, of course, a better team. They have Joel Embiid. They should be able to get by the Nets with pretty easy, with ease. That should set up a Boston-Philadelphia matchup next round. But I think the best series that's going on right now is probably one that you weren't expecting to be the best one, but it is the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. The Battle of Northern California is upon us. It is here. And, I didn't watch much of Sacramento at all this season. Pretty much none. No Sacramento. I watched none of their games. And I didn't really watch the first game either, because I was, with gaming with some friends, so I didn't really watch it, but I heard it was a great game. And I was able to catch, like, at least a good 3/4 of the second game before I had to dip out. But when I was watching that game, I was watching the Warriors, and I was watching the Kings. And the Warriors are old. Like, besides Wiggins and Poole, like, their team is old. Kevon Looney's been there for a while. Thompson, Green, Curry, they've been there for a while. Their best, younger players, Wiggins, Poole, like, they got to try to keep up with, like, that entire Sacramento Kings team. De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, they're all, like, 25 and younger. Like those guys are, like, when I saw that game, I was like, their athleticism is what is the difference maker here. They are just able to beat the Warriors and run by them and just score, have more opportunities at points, and the Warriors can even dream at this point. The Warriors are, again, they make threes and make kind of easy shots. The Kings are, like, battling. They battle hard. They go at you. They run by you, and they're athletic, and they're tough, and they're young. That's one thing I noticed. You can see that from the tip. Like, these guys just have the energy of youth. Like, they're gonna run past you all game, and you can tell. And the Kings being up 2-0 right now, going back to Golden State for games 3, 4, and 5, I believe. They're going to need that home court advantage, come in clutch, because Sacramento's home crowd has not sniffed playoff basketball in years. They haven't been on ABC, the network itself, for years. I can't remember the number of years it was, but it was like an enormous number. I couldn't believe it. Like, you have not been on the network, ABC network, for that many years? And now that I think about it, yeah. Why would you be? You were horrible. You guys were so bad. You probably had you've been getting some good draft picks like Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox. You've had some promising with coaches like, George Karl back then, like, oh, maybe he could crack the code. Now you got Mike Brown there, who's, like, influencing these young guys to really, come together and play for one another, like the beam, play some good basketball. And then, eventually you got a team that's in contention to compete, at least to get to the Western Conference Finals, right? If we're, maybe if we get there, the finals. So being able to watch that team, just, like, completely at some points dismantle the Warriors, who are the defending champions, who, by the way, have a terrible road record. Like, their road record has been awful, you know. I don't know if that really translates to playoffs because playoffs are a different breed. You need to win them. Like every game, you have to win if you want that championship. Like regular season, I can kind of, I could see like them not playing well. They needing that boost, right? They're older. Probably not everybody's playing every single game. Every starter is not going to be able to play. But, that's kind of weird how much they rely on that home court advantage, right? How much it fuels them. But still, like, Sacramento has the youth. They have the athleticism. They also have the talent. And I think, in combination with the coach, too, the Warriors might not survive this series. I'll be honest. So, I think that the Sacramento Kings are gonna take out the Warriors. And you know what? As I say that, I could be completely wrong. And the Warriors could be the Warriors and be like, you know what? We were always good. We just weren't ready to show you yet. And then just dismantle the Kings in the next 4 games and take the series. I could totally see that happening. Totally see that happening. But I think that the Kings are good enough to hold off, to fend off the Warriors and make their way to the final. Maybe not to the finals, but get at least to the next round. Last topic for the day. Not about sports, but about TV. Time to review The Mandalorian Season 3. What did I think? I gave you a little bit of thoughts last episode of where I was at that point. And just to be clear, when I was talking about The Mandalorian last week, I recorded early because of scheduling purposes. So I was at that point. I've seen 6 episodes at that point. And up until those 6 episodes, I was not really enjoying The Mandalorian. The story that they have set up about saving Mandalore wasn't really a main focal point. It was kind of a side mission. It was like, yeah, we'll get there, but we gotta do this and every other thing. Introducing characters not introducing, but reintroducing characters that you thought that you probably have seen the last of in previous seasons, but come back for, a little bit of world building. But I think that it isn't, even having completed the series, the payoff for that wasn't, did they really need to be in it? I just felt like you could have told it in a much more simpler way to get to the point, especially at the very ending of what, what the bad guys, what the empire of the remnants of the empire have been up to. The episode 3 with Dr. Pershing and the Imperial defect really was not necessary now that I think about it. And it was really one of the worst episodes that I've seen in terms of storytelling and putting in details that'll come back in future episodes. Really wasn't for me, it wasn't a good payoff in my opinion. But having said my thoughts last week and kind of ripping the show to shreds, which it totally deserved. It totally deserved to be ripped to shreds at that point. The last 2 episodes were pretty freaking bangers. I'll be honest, action-wise, the shit stepped up its game. It was done playing around, for sure. We had some action here and there, but it wasn't really meaningful action where, it didn't feel like side quest action. It felt like, it was, just we got to get through this to get to the main action. And it's going to, and the thing is, with all those action scenes, you knew nobody was going to get killed. You knew nobody was going to get hurt. You knew nobody was going to get, have any, consequences from these scenes, these little mini fights and battles. You knew nothing was going to happen to these characters. And at, a certain point, you can say, that's kind of predictable. And I guess you can kind of say that for the majority of this season of The Mandalorian. It's pretty predictable. Nothing really outrageous happens. Nothing really crazy happens. Nothing surprises me at all, really, in this season, which is a letdown for me because especially the way that season 2 went about with the surprises, with the reveals, this season pretty much none, which is good and it's bad. It's good because those reveals I feel like are rewarding. The reveals in season 2 with Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker, I felt also ultimately kind of made sense, but also were pretty good for fan service, you know? You're not just going to put in something for fan service if it doesn't work. I felt like Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker worked. Like, it was like, why not use them, right? Why not? Well, it just made complete sense. And none of that in this season. Kind of a letdown, I'll be honest. And the majority of the episodes are just kind of side quests with very, very little to deal with the main plot. And the main plot, having seen the finale already, is a nice ending to the season, but nowhere near as satisfying or as, I think, impactful as you thought it was going to be. Because there's so much time in the other episodes where they don't even really mention the main plot that when we complete the main mission in the season finale, it's like, okay, that was nice, but not really impactful, Which I guess is a good thing and a bad thing. A bad thing is because I feel like I'm too spoiled. I was spoiled with season 2 of Mando, where we saw Luke Skywalker, where we sent Grogu off to become a Jedi. And that gets reverted. He's back with Mando. He's back to doing his old shit. Being cute and floating in that little ball. And being Baby Yoda. And I guess that was kind of cool. But it was like more of the same. And I just feel like at this point in Mandalorian, I think we've had enough. I think I've had enough of Mandalorian. Like, I think that it ended very good, very strong. But it feels like at this point, and by this point, like the time period of this whole thing is, between episode 6 and 7. Right? It's like midpoint right here. So as the show progresses, we kind of see how stuff is shifting in the overall Star Wars universe when it comes to like Resistance and First Order. There's some stuff there that, is sprinkled in there. You see the progressions of what's to come in the sequel trilogy. And whether you like that or not, it's going to happen. I thought it was very interesting of how that was being handled, how it was kind of being, sprinkled throughout the season. It definitely made sense. It definitely was like, okay, I'm starting to piece together what I've already seen from the sequels and how this is kind of connecting and bridging the gap. But the main plot of the story of Mandalorian Season 3, kind of bare bones, a little dragged out in certain aspects. Important episodes, I feel like, are kind of short, while non-important ones, like the Dr. Pershing one, are too fucking long. Or Jack Black and Lizzo were in it for, while they were good as their characters, kind of unnecessary. Kind of just like, okay, like, I guess we'll help you. What, the payoff at the end, for me, wasn't as strong as I think it could have been if you focused more on the goal, which is saving Mandalore. That would have been, there's characters that are introduced in this show that I thought that could have been put in, way earlier to make it more impactful, more emotional, more of a struggle to win back Mandalore. But of course, they had to go for the side quest route again and do that to an extent again that the main story just doesn't feel as strong as it could be. I don't know. I just kind of felt like it was good. But I don't know if we can handle another season of the same old shit. Like the same old side quest, and we'll bring in this, this big threat again, or he's back again, or, this guy, he's alive still, that kind of shit. And from what I've seen, the finale of the show, it kind of ends kind of conclusive. Like, it kind of feels like it's a full-on ending of the Mandalorian journey, almost, in a way. There's a little bit of room for, more stuff, but it does kind of feel a little conclusive. Like, it wrapped up pretty nice. Like, even though it wasn't a strong wrap-up, it definitely seems like a wrap-up for at least another 2 years. Like, I don't see them putting out another season next year. I'm not sure if there's any confirmation of them already shooting it, if it's already been written. I think it has been written, but I don't know if it's been, if it's being put into actual production yet. But I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't the strongest season of television. That last seasons were so good. So good. But yeah, overall, I think I give it like a 7.9 out of 10. Like, it's pretty solid still. Like, it's a good, solid, fun stuff, but no real payoff. Like the ending of season 2, like, I don't know. And it's not to say that the cameos made the payoff better, but like the story itself was just meh. It needed to be more epic with the main plots, but it was just lost in these side quests, and it took forever to get back on track, and when it did, it was good, but then just, boom, it ended. It's like, oh, okay, whatever, I guess we're done with that. That's going to be it for me today, people. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. If you want, you can like, subscribe, rate, review this podcast. It helps a lot. Make sure you share it with your friends. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. This drops every Thursday morning. And yeah, I thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next week.